We're going to go into the best variations that you can use to improve your clean, and we're going to start right now. Okay, so the first key factor, we've got to identify technique when we're discussing clean technique. Okay, so we have to look at what are those positions. So off the floor, what are we doing from the floor to the knee? We want to see those knees come back. Okay, you can use Haley Reichert as a phenomenal technical model. Then we want to look at it from the point of below the knee to above the knee. That's where we're going to see no man's land. We want to stay through that flat foot as long as possible. We want the bar to be tight around the knee. Okay, we don't want the knees to just come back and the bar be forward, because we can lose that lift quite a bit. So we need to make sure that that bar is tight through no man's land. Then when we get above the knee, okay, at the lower part of your quad, that's going to be the reciprocation point. So we want to see the knees come under a little bit while we're holding that flat foot. And we want to think from the reciprocation point into the hip, bottom of the quad into the hip, we make good contact. Then the next big aspect here is what are we doing from the hip to the catch. Now we want to wrap those elbows fast around the bar as quickly as possible. Keep that upright trunk. And one big cue that I've been using recently to prevent that chest from getting too far back would be bring that chest to the bar so we're not getting too far behind the bar. So then we catch and we stand up as quickly as possible. That's the technique that we want to look at. That's the technique that we want to work towards. We use technical videos even inside of our strength training at Peak Strength to try and guide your technique and improve it over a long period of time. Because if we don't understand technique, then these variations won't carry over. So that takes us into the next big factor. Now we need to look at what are key problem areas within the clean. Okay, what are areas that people struggle with? And that first key area is that a lot of individuals tend to jump forward. A lot of individuals tend to bend their arms when the bar just gets right past the knee. They'll sort of bend, they'll bump the bar forward, and when they bump the bar forward, they end up jumping forward to catch the bar. Okay, so that's sort of two issues there. You're jumping forward, you're bending the arms too much. The second issue is you might be jumping back too much. You might get back behind the bar, you jump back 6 to 8 inches, and then the bar crashes on you, you leave it forward, and you tend to dump everything in the middle of your legs. And then another very common thing outside of jumping forward, outside of jumping backwards, outside of having that serious arm bend, the next thing is that it just crashes on you. The barbell just crashes on you. You get pinned to the bottom. You have your glutes draped over your calves and you can't stand it up. So those are those common problems that we see with the clean. So if we know that those are the problems and we know that we have this technical model, we can look at the technical model, look at the problems and figure out, okay, what can we do to improve these problems? What type of variations can we use to then develop technique and lead to a more consistent execution? So that first sweet, unbelievably awesome clean variation. This is going to solve a lot of your issues with jumping forward. This is going to solve a lot of your issues even with jumping backwards. This is potentially going to solve a lot of your issues altogether because you're going to have better connection to the floor. You're going to have better connection to the actual barbell, which in turn, you're going to learn how to apply force into the bar without leaving the ground, having propulsion into the bar instead of into the air. Oftentimes, a lot of newbies and a lot of athletes are taught to jump their feet all over the place. Now, this next movement is going to be a very big challenge for you individuals. I want you to do no feet clean. So I want you to start the pull with your feet in the front squat position. I want you to pull that bar nice and tight and do a no feet clean. So you're going to catch the bar without moving your feet out. You're going to catch the bar where you do a front squat. This is going to help you stay through a flat foot as long as possible. Then you're going to make hip contact, wrap those elbows as fast as possible on the shrug and get and meet that bar very, very tightly. One of the big factors here, let's say we're doing 5 sets of 2, 6 sets of 3, something like that, to just imprint that good technique. Now we start to see and feel what it feels like to go off the hip into that catch very tightly. We start to learn how to apply a large amount of force into the floor at high speeds. So use no feet cleans to try and fix that jumping forward or that jumping backward. Again, 6 sets of 2 is going to go a long ways in improving your clean technique. Now, the next problem is going to be based off of jumping back and that barbell crashes on you. The next movement, this is going to be a complex. So I want you to do a no feet power clean. So when we're doing no feet derivatives or no feet movements, okay, you can still plantar flex your foot, but you can't slide your feet. You just plantar flex and put them back down. So in this complex, I want to see a no feet power clean, then lead into a full clean. And we have to remember in this case that no feet power clean is teaching us to be aggressive, fast, tight with the barbell, push through that long grounded position, wrap as quickly as possible off the hip. And then we need to feel that position and then do that from the floor with a traditional clean. So we're trying to use the no feet power clean to get that feeling of tension, to get that speed, to get that movement pattern ingrained. And then we're going to change into the full clean, now the traditional competitive movement. But we want to make sure that we are doing with the no feet power clean, we're trying to erase those errors that we then see in our full clean. So let's say you do 5 sets of 2 no feet power cleans with 1 full clean. Really try to hammer that feeling, really try to hammer that technique, and then lead to better execution of the full clean. Now, the next key aspect, okay, this is going to be traditionally just arm bending. Somebody who arm bends like crazy, usually, I say usually has a weak posterior chain, meaning their hamstrings are weak, their glutes are weak, their back is weak. So one of the best ways to do this is to do slow eccentrics through targeting the posterior chain. So if we're thinking about exercise derivatives that we could use, the way that we could target and help the individual be more aware is to actually stand up with a clean. Okay, so they stand up with a clean grip, with the clean stance in their feet, and now they're going to lower through that slow eccentric. Let's say it takes 4 seconds to lower the barbell to a clean starting position at a low hang. So the bar is going to get below their knee, but they won't be going off of the floor. Okay, they can pause there. They can do a low hang clean. And I even like to do another complex known as the Haley complex, which means they're going to lower it all the way close to the floor, pull back up, pause, and then clean. And this complex and the low hang clean together will drastically strengthen that posterior chain. It's going to help the athlete feel the positions that they need to do from a technical perspective. And again, we've got to remember the weightlifting variations are being done to alleviate, to get rid of any of these technical errors that we have with the full clean. So we've got to be aware of what is the problem. The problem in this case is an arm bend. What's the cause of the problem? Weak posterior chain, weak lats, weak awareness of technique. What's the fix? Low hang cleans or the Haley complex with slow eccentric. Do this with a 5 to 7 second eccentric. You could do 1 to 2 reps, but with that slow eccentric, that's going to help improve that back strength. That's going to help improve that technique. You're going to push through that flat foot as long as possible, and it's even going to strengthen that upper back. Now, this next problem, remember, I like to look at everything. So we've got that technical model in the beginning that we discussed, a Haley record. Then we have the potential problems that we're looking at. So we talked about arm bending, jumping forward, jumping backwards, and now we've even talked about just getting smashed by the bar. The next problem would be you get smacked by the bar, you grind it out, but then you've got no legs to hit a big jerk. Nothing. You got nothing left in the tank. One thing that you can do then is try to figure out first, improve the position so you're not getting smacked by the clean. Second, let's try to strengthen the legs, or let's try and get this individual. It will typically be someone with longer legs who struggles to then have the legs to hit a big jerk. So we can go something like a no feet clean into 2 front squats into a jerk. So this complex is going to alleviate that stress that they feel prior to hitting a big jerk. And then as we get closer to a peak, I do recommend with some long-legged individuals, if they struggle with having legs for a big jerk, if they struggle with grinding out that clean, okay, in a competitive setting, you do 5 sets of 1 clean, 2 to 3 front squats, 1 jerk. Okay, so this complex oftentimes is going to be the weight that the individual will hit in this complex by the time they do 2 or 3 front squats and then they hit a jerk. Whatever that 1 RM is for that complex. So let's say somebody does 130 kilos for 1 clean, 2 front squats, 1 jerk. Typically, with long-legged individuals, that's going to be the weight that they can then hit in that competitive setting. So use that almost as a predictor and use that as a way to develop confidence in these individuals, especially as they're starting to cut weight, especially as they're starting to lose weight. Make sure that they have some carbs before that training. Make sure that they still are hydrated, because sometimes with a complex like this where you have multiple front squats, some people might start to black out a little bit. So just be aware of that. But use these variations, okay, to improve your technique. And just think back, when we designed peak strength, the way that we designed it is based off of technique technique and based off of fixing technical problems with variations. So when you go inside of Peak Strength and you fill out the survey that we give you, those answers to the survey are then teaching Peak Strength how to program based off of our system of using these different movements to then fix and resolve all those technical issues. If you need help with your overall training, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store, because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.